What is up, you guys? Wonder Bro here. Acceptance is supposed to lead to silence. Now, let me very quickly explain that because I know immediately when people hear that, they're going to think, no way. No way can I get my anxious thoughts to be quiet. No way can I get my anxious feelings and symptoms to be quiet. So, what is this guy talking about? Okay. So, there's a difference between thoughts and thinking. And that is one of my more popular videos here on the channel, thoughts versus thinking. So, when I say acceptance is supposed to lead to silence, what I really mean by that is we talk about the accepting inner voice. We talk about non-engagement responses. Same thing, right? You get in your head, you tell yourself something like, I can handle these feelings, or you get a thought and you're, okay, I'm not going to follow that thought. I'm not going to follow up with that thought. I'm not going to get involved with that thought, right? We discuss these things. The accepting inner voice, NERs, they're all the same, right? It's somebody cognitively reminding themselves that they're going to leave something alone, that something is not important, that they're making the conscious choice to not go there with that thing. They're not going to ruminate on that thing. They're not going to worry about that thing, right? The problem with this that I'm seeing, however, is that a lot of people will speak their piece, right? They'll say to themselves, I can handle this feeling. I'm not going to follow that thought. Yeah, whatever, brain, just leave that alone. But then they don't stop. They just ruminate right after they say that. So it kind of sounds like this. They get a thought, or they're having a sticky thought, and they say, you know what, I'm going to leave that thought alone. I'm going to get on with my day. And then immediately right after that, they start ruminating again. They start going, is that working? Is this helping me? Is this helping my recovery? How close am I to recovery? Is that thought ever going to go? What if that thought doesn't go? What if that is true? What if it's not? They start launching this investigation. So the investigation, the rumination, never really comes to an end, even though they are using that accepting inner voice, even though, shout out to the pup, even though they are using that accepting inner voice, even though they are using those non-engagement responses, like I said, whatever you want to call them, they're still doing the rumination. So it's not really accomplishing anything. Now, don't get me wrong. You may be so deep, like I was, in the rumination habit. You're just thinking all the time. You're thinking about your thoughts. You're thinking about your feelings. You're constantly trying to problem solve something. You're constantly giving these things your full attention, which means you're investigating them. You may be so deep in that habit that, yes, you do have to remind yourself quite often throughout the day, oh, there we go, I'm ruminating again, or, oh, I'm going to stop ruminating about that. You may have to do that a lot. And I'm not saying you won't, right? Sometimes, like in my earlier videos, we would say, you might have to tell yourself to not go there a million times a day. I'm not denying that. I'm not stepping back on that. But what I am saying is it needs to lead to a dropping of the rumination, right? If you're going to tell yourself, I'm not going to investigate that thought any further, or if you catch yourself ruminating, look at me, I'm sitting around, I'm ruminating about that, I'm thinking about that constantly. I'm going to try to put some distance between me and that. I'm going to put the brakes on that. But then you just start ruminating again 5 seconds later and you're not stopping it. So you're telling yourself, we're not going to ruminate. And then you ruminate for 3 hours, right? You can see how that accepting inner voice is not really doing you any favors. It's not accomplishing anything. So, yes, on one hand, I understand you might have such a bad rumination habit that you have to catch yourself ruminating quite often. I understand that. I completely get it. But on the other hand, if you're telling yourself you're going to stop ruminating, and then you continue to ruminate for 3 hours before you tell yourself again, hey, I need to stop ruminating, and then you ruminate again for 3 hours, you can see how it's not going to add up. It's not going to get you anywhere. So acceptance needs to lead to silence. And just to be clear, I'm not saying you're going to have a silent mind. You'll have thoughts coming and going. I'm not saying you're going to have a silent body. You'll have symptoms in your body, but you, yourself, the consciousness, you need to quit talking to yourself about your symptoms. You need to quit talking to yourself about your thoughts. If you're truly leaving something alone, you need to be quiet, right? Let those thoughts come and go. Let them float around in your awareness, but be quiet. Quit talking to yourself about what you're feeling and the thoughts. You're just giving them unnecessary attention. Anxiety really is an attention disorder. These thoughts and feelings would come and go freely, and your nervous system would heal if you stopped pouring so much attention into them. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to be aware of them. You're going to be aware that you're having feelings. You're going to be very aware that you're having thoughts, but you're not giving them attention in the way that you're not sitting there and wrestling with them and thinking more about them and investigating them and talking to yourself about them. If all these terms confuse you, like rumination, worry, stuff like that, then just view it like this. Your goal is to stop talking to yourself about your symptoms and about your thoughts, other than giving yourself those reminders, right? Those reminders of, hey, I'm ruminating. I'm going to stop doing that, right? Other than that, other than those reminders used when needed, right? Some might call it the accepting inner voice. We're not going to talk to ourselves about what's going on because that's just more attention, right? It's just more attention. If you know it's storming outside, you know it's storming outside, but you're not sitting at your window talking about it, right? You just know that it's there, but you're not going to talk about it. Just like you know your thoughts are there, your anxious, intrusive thoughts, just like you know your physical anxiety symptoms are there, but you're not going to sit and spend prolonged periods of time just talking to yourself about it. So, again, if words like rumination and worry kind of confuse you and then you start ruminating about, am I ruminating? Then just use those terms right there. I'm going to quit talking to myself so much about all my thoughts. Every time I get a thought, I don't have to sit and talk to myself about it for the next 30 minutes, the next 3 hours. Every time I get a feeling or I'm currently having a feeling or a symptom, I don't have to sit and talk to myself about it for the next 3 hours, right? So, again, it's okay to give yourself reminders. It's okay to boost yourself up and say, hey, I can handle these feelings, or I'm not going to follow that thought, or it's okay to give yourself those reminders. I encourage those reminders if needed, but they really need to lead to silence. They need to lead to a decision to say, now I'm going to quit talking about it. Now I'm going to quit talking about that subject to myself. I'm just going to leave those thoughts and feelings alone. They can be there in my awareness. I'm not going to sit and talk about them. All right. So acceptance needs to lead to silence. And hopefully, as time goes on, you get better and better at practicing this. You'll have longer gaps, longer periods where you're having your feelings, you're having your anxious feelings and symptoms, you're having your anxious thoughts, but there's not a bunch of commentary going on. You're not sitting there talking to yourself about it. All right. I love you guys. Remember, attention is power. Things are allowed to be there. You're allowed to be aware of things, but don't sit there and give it so much attention. Okay. And what is the biggest form that attention takes? Talking to yourself about it. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Blah, 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 blah. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you'd like to reach out to me for some information on coaching, get up with me. Any of the Vacate Fear social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I got it all. Just toss me a DM. We'll talk about it. If you need that more one-on-one help and that more one-on-one approach, comment down below. What was your favorite part of this video? Did anything in this video speak to you? Did it help clear up some questions you may have? Comment, let me know. If you have ideas for future videos, also comment that down below. And I think that's it. Leave a quick like. I'll see you next time. Stay awesome.